An Australian think tank says that Myanmar has made minimal preparations for the repatriation of Rohingya Muslim refugees. It is challenging the government's claim that conditions are safe and ready for refugees to return from Bangladesh.
The Australian Strategic Policy Institute analysed satellite imagery of the Rakhine state between December last year and June this year. It reported today that there are no signs of reconstruction.
The institute said Rohingya settlements are still being destroyed. Satellite evidence from this year showed the destruction of residential buildings.
Imagery also showed 6 military facilities have been built or expanded on former Rohingya settlements. And Myanmar authorities have promised to resettle the refugees, but continue to blame Bangladesh for failing to kickstart the repatriation.
Now, for more on this, let's cross over to our correspondent, Wai-Kit, in Myanmar. Wai-Kit, is the report accurate? What should we read into it?
Well, Steve, the report is as accurate as the data from satellite images allow it to be. Personally, when I was in northern Rakhine in early July, while driving from one part of northern Rakhine to Mongdor, there was a 3-hour drive, and when I looked out of the window, I saw vast plots of empty land. Now, these plots of land were previously they were houses, lining the streets, and they belonged to the Rohingyas back in 2017. But after the Rohingya crisis, the houses there have been destroyed. Again, the satellite images can only tell us information accurate as of now. What the satellite images cannot tell researchers, cannot tell you and me, would be perhaps future plans that the government has. So I posed 2 questions to the minister who's in charge of repatriation. My first question to him was, what would happen to the plots of land that I left empty, the ones that I witnessed? And the second question was his response to what the study said, that houses continue to be seemingly destroyed in 2018 and 2019. Now, Dr. Win Myat A, the minister in charge, told me that there are plans to build better villages that would include places of worship, that would include schools and clinics that would be allocated to the plots of land that I witnessed. But he did not address my second question related to the study. Again, this is an ongoing conversation because the last message I got from Dr. Win Myat A was that he has to meet the Vice President of Myanmar. Again, when he does respond, we will update you with the latest information.
All right, Wai-Kit, we know you traveled to northern Rakhine. You mentioned there as well. Can you tell us more about what you saw while you were there?
Well, I'll talk about 4 observations and piece them together and explain them in the larger context that would make sense in this repatriation process as well as the ongoing Rakhine crisis. The first thing was I saw houses that India built for Myanmar, and these are for different communities, the Hindus, the Rohingyas, as well as the Rakhine people who were displaced. I was told that these houses were built very close by to where they used to live. So this is an indication that Myanmar is working together with its friends to build houses, to develop houses to receive the Rohingyas when they return. The second observation was, interestingly, when I was in Mongdor, there were sightings of tuk-tuks, and these tuk-tuks were everywhere in the heart of the city, driven by Rohingyas. I even took one from my guest house to the heart of Mongdor to film and to talk to people. Again, this is an indication that there is some form of development taking place in northern Rakhine, and again, an indication that there's some semblance of normalcy that has returned to some parts of northern Rakhine. Having said that, not everything is rosy. While I was there, I was also affected by the internet ban that's been ongoing for about a month now. The government blames the Rakhine army for using the internet to plot attacks, and so to prevent them from doing so, they have imposed an internet ban on some parts of Rakhine and Chin State. The other thing that that affected me and people who live there is the ongoing nighttime curfew. By about 9:40, 9:50 p.m. local time, the streets are all dark, nobody's walking on the streets, and even when my friends and I were having a late dinner at the eatery, the owner has to gently remind us to hurry up because they have to close their shops to observe the ongoing curfew. So these 2 signs tell me that all is not rosy in northern Rakhine. There is some form of concern that conflicts are still going on, and right now it's the conflict between the Rakhine army and the Myanmar military.
Wai-Kit, we understand that Myanmar is sending a high-level delegation to Bangladesh this Saturday. What can we expect from this trip?
Well, I spoke to one of the delegation members, but not many details were told to me. What I do know is that this trip, they aim to speak to the Rohingyas in Bangladesh, convince them to return to Myanmar and share with them plans that Myanmar has made for them. This little manifesto, if you wish, details some of the plans that they have for Rohingyas if they choose to return. One of the things is that they will allow the Rohingyas to return to their homes if their houses are still intact. If they're not intact, the government will give them materials to rebuild their own house and pay them for their effort. And if they don't want to or they can't build the houses, they can have the option of staying temporarily in government shelter while the government builds houses for them. The mini manifesto also tells the Rohingyas how they can apply for citizenship eventually and get freedom of movement. Having said that, what the proposals cannot guarantee perhaps would be 100% safety and security, because even as we speak now, there is ongoing conflict in northern Rakhine, regardless of whether it involves the Arakan army or what the Myanmar government brands as terrorists, the ARSA. The fact that there is still ongoing ongoing security is a big concern for many of the Rohingyas who will even consider coming back to Myanmar in the first place.
All right, many thanks for that. Leong Wai Kit speaking to us from Yangon.